This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
The Friday football feast makes its return this Friday. You enjoy PA, Norno, Alec Lewis, 9 to noon, Buffalo Wild Wings, Monticello for wings, football, and great prizes ahead of Vikings, Eagles this Sunday. Doors open at 8. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Standard Heating and Air, thank you very much. StandardHeating.com. And we welcome you to the 9 to noon show, where Ben Goessling, scribe for the Star Tribune, joins 9 to noon each and every Tuesday. We are at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Access Vikings podcast, don't forget about that. The Friday newsletter at Ben Goessling via Twitter. You can learn about all of that via his Twitter feed. And no regrets, I would imagine, skipping the week in London, right? And good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it was okay to have a little bit of a respite from that. I ended up home a day later than I expected I was going to be, because my connection from Dublin to Amsterdam got delayed to the point where I missed the flight from Amsterdam home. So had a free night in Amsterdam and figured out how to get myself downtown and did the bicycle thing and saw a little bit of Amsterdam. But yeah, it was otherwise it was a little more of a relaxing week than it sounded like it might have been in London for some people.
What does a good Christian kid like you do with a full day in Amsterdam?
It was a couple hours in Amsterdam. I think it was trying to figure out how to use the train, read enough Dutch to understand how to get off the train, and then figured out, they do the rent by the hour bike thing, like you would do with a scooter or something. So found one of those places and just did the bike around thing. Went to see some of the museums, and they were closed by that point. This is like 9:00 at night by the time I did this. But yeah, took some pictures of that stuff and looked like an American tourist probably riding the bike around. But it was kind of fun just to see I had never been there. So I figured let's make the best of it and then get back to the hotel, finish writing the story, sleep for 3 hours, 4 hours, and get on the flight home.
Amsterdam's actually really cool.
It seems like it is.
There's the stereotype bits.
Right.
But the canals, the museums, there's like 900,000 bicycles in town.
Yep.
I mean, you're looking for bikes before you're looking for cars in Amsterdam.
People were just commuting.
But it's beautiful,
bikes.
man.
Yeah,
no, it is a cool city.
It was fun to see a little bit of it in a little bit of time. I figured let's just make the best of it when I'm delayed there.
Now, with even though you weren't in London or at Hanbury Manor or covering it, as you would cover as a beat writer, normally week to week, it doesn't mean you're not plugged into vibes, or you're not either plugged in from those within the covenant or those covering the covenant. The point being here is the week and a half seemed to eat at some, but not everybody. When I talk with coaches and or players mostly, did you get that vibe from afar? I thought it was a terrific experience. It did get long. I'm not, part of the game planning group or anything, but it seemed to eat at some people. Did you sense that?
Yeah, it's a long time to be out of your element. I mean, you're doing all of these things. I mean, NFL teams are so much creatures of habit. I mean, they want things to be regimented and routine and kind of predictable week to week. I think that's something that they kind of thrive on, or at least get so comfortable with it. When you don't have that in the same way, it's hard. So when you have to fly in a tackle just to get through practice because you don't have enough people healthy and active, and you have to make sure he's got a passport and make sure that you can get a uniform made up and, all of these extra things. I even felt that in Dublin. It was a reminder, and I enjoy those international trips a lot, but there's just always like a couple of things that you count on working smoothly that don't. It's, hey, the internet isn't working quite the way I want, or, I need this power converter. When I got laid over in Amsterdam, it's like, all right, I have the one for the UK and Ireland, but I don't have the one for mainland Europe, so I got to find one of those. Otherwise, I can't get my story done. So it's just those types of little things. And then when you're playing in an NFL season where there's pressure and you're trying to get things fixed, especially with injuries like they've had it, I just imagine all those little things add up, and it just gets to be kind of grueling. I think Jonathan Grenard said after the game, like, I'm ready to go home, ready to see my family, ready to be in my own bed. I think when you take a team out of its routine for that long, it is going to wear on some people.
Do you think it's time for the NFL to give the Vikings a break from worldly escapades?
Well, I had that conversation with a couple of people over the course of this, and I did get a little bit of I think they enjoy those things, but I think there was a little bit of, this was a lot, and this was something that no one else has been asked to do before. So I think there was maybe a little bit of a hope of, hey, next year, for example, if the Rams end up on the schedule and it's, hey, the Rams are playing that game in Melbourne, let's send the Vikings there because they travel well and they do these things well. They activate and all these different kinds of things. I think there's maybe a little bit of a hope of, no, we just sent them on a 2-week trip last year. Let's give them a minute to breathe before we do the next one of these things.
KO left QB1 open for the Philly game, didn't he?
He did, yep.
What do you think?
Well, I think, some of the things he said yesterday about J.J. McCarthy and some of the things he said through the course of this process, getting through a whole week of practice, I don't know how you're going to know that, his fitness to start until you see him go through it. So, just common sense, and this is not with any steam necessarily, but common sense tells me that you probably want to see him get through the full week, see how he responds to a Wednesday practice, how he comes back. It's hard to do that kind of prospecting, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do that speculatively where you're saying, okay, let's see if this guy's ready to go. That's not how regular season practices work. As you guys know, you need the reps to have the number one ready to play. So I would imagine that they're going to take the week to say, let's get him some work. Let's get some extra work with quarterback coaches on the side, get him some extra reps, kind of do some of those things and see how he is physically, see how he is kind of commanding the offense when he gets chances, whether it's reps in practice or things on the side. I would imagine it's that, and you're looking at Carson Wentz to start.
Yeah.
But, if that changes and he says, if they say, yeah, he's ready to go, maybe you switch that up. I just think that's a lot to ask for in a week when you could use this week to say, let's have this be a little bit of an incubator and see where he's at.
Tell me if I'm reading too much into it, because it's tough where, we've joked about it even 9 to noon, where if Kevin O'Connell answers a question at some point in that answer, the longer he talks, you're going to start to get maybe some little morsels and some little nuggets and clues.
Sure.
What's interesting to me, and again, tell me if I'm reading too much into this, at one point it was just there's an ankle injury.
Yeah.
Kid can't play. So we need to get him healthy and get him back on the field. But in subsequent conversations over the last couple of weeks, you've started to hear, well, the footwork.
Yeah.
Well, the fundamentals. And some other things that, we were thinking maybe during training camp, whether or not it was perfected, that kind of those conversations, that was in the past. It was the springtime conversation, throwing off platform, the mechanics of the position and all of that. And then you felt that the evolution being ready for week 1 at Soldier Field, that this was no longer part of the conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
So now I'm deep in the weeds of, well, how much did the offensive line, MASH unit play into what we saw the first 2 weeks? Now he's hurt. But now I'm starting to hear about footwork and some fundamentals and some things again as part of the health and the rehabilitation. How am I reading in too much where it's like, was there a regression? Was there specific issues that now before he gets back on the field, I actually now need to see that progress in practice as well, not just his ability to go through reps in practice? Yeah,
I mean, he's said it enough that I don't think that's an accident. I mean, he's brought up the footwork probably 3 or 4 times now, and I asked about it again yesterday because I've been interested to see, kind of double click on this to say, okay, what are we talking about specifically here? And he got into a lot of things. I mean, a lot of coaching points you will hear Kevin O'Connell make with quarterbacks are base, balance, and body position. That's the thing you hear him say over and over and over, and tying feet and eyes together, all of those fundamental things. I think those show up if they're not there, and you have that offensive line that they did where it is a MASH unit, and you're not going to have as many clean pockets. I think his point was even when you have dirty pockets, you have to get to those places where you can throw from a solid platform and then be able to make throws that hit people in stride, hit people where it should. I mean, all of those things are tied together. And I think where the injury comes in is that you're talking about his right ankle, so it's his plant foot when he's throwing. And if you don't feel good about the mechanics of it and then you throw in the injury, everything kind of just compounds. If you're taking habits that they would like to still be better and you have an injury that he may be compensating for, just this is how humans deal with injuries. Right. we're going to have some compensatory patterns when we have injuries that we're dealing with, and I don't like how that feels, so let me kind of adjust what I do. I think all of that stuff kind of gets tied together, and when you're saying we need to see this be clean, and we need to see it especially be clean when it's an indication that your foot is healed and that you're trusting your ankle when you're pushing off, I think that's where a lot of that stuff comes together.
Yeah, and we talked about kind of just the coach's commitment to a plan.
Yeah.
So whether, and PA brought this up last week, and we just kind of go through it. It's like, because I want to read through tea leaves and figure out when the heck the kid QB is going to be back.
Sure.
He commits to the first quarter suspension of Jordan Addison, despite needing this cat to be on the field and help be productive for your offense. He commits to the pitch count with your left tackle, where
that's a good point.
We're in a spot where Justin School's going one-on-one against Myles Garrett when we absolutely need a touchdown to win that game. Thankfully, it actually kind of worked out.
Yeah.
But with that said, committing to that idea that he's got to be healthy, that only continually furthers my lean that Carson, and I'm still wondering about this shoulder. I know it's not throwing, but if he's healthy enough to go, I think that's, I don't want to say it's obvious, but it feels like that is the obvious answer, I guess, into Sunday against Philly.
Yeah, I think the only hedge there is the shoulder, like you say. How bad is it, and how effective is he going to be if he gets hit? Yeah, and then it's probably Brosmer if you don't feel like you're ready with JJ.
Is Desmond Ridder back yet?
Yeah, I mean, you're figuring out all those things, but the point about him not equivocating on things because, well, this isn't perfect, but we have to win this week, so let's move off of the plan. Whether it's Addison, whether it's the pitch count for Darisaw, you have seen him say, even if this is going to possibly put us at a little bit of a disadvantage in the short term, the long term, the overall principle of what we're trying to do is the more important thing here. Yeah. And I do think their general approach with McCarthy has been, let's do these things when we feel like he's ready to be sustainably successful, and you're not going back and forth. And I know when he's had the 2 games and then you're saying, well, when's he going to go back in there? That can feel like that. But I think some of it is, okay, no, there are some things we need to get fixed, especially when this injury comes into it and how that affects your mechanics. I think that all is part of it, where you're saying the long term of this guy. I mean, I wrote about this morning, that you have quarterbacks across the NFL right now that were high draft picks that washed out with their first teams, have gone to a second or a third or a fourth team in some cases, and are now some of the best in the NFL. I mean, the top seeds in each conference are quarterbacked by Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones, 2 guys that were regarded to be busts in the last year or 2. I'm old enough to remember when that was the case.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Darnold, of course, is playing well in Seattle, and then Jared Goff. That's not new, but Jared Goff has kind of gone through this reclamation too. It's kind of a reminder, we've seen it here in 2 of those cases with Darnold and Jones, that the trajectory of this position takes longer than a couple of weeks. And I think as they are going through this, let's keep the long term and the overall development of this guy as the main thing. And that's, I think, where some of these decisions come in.
Anybody ever get loud in your comments or responding to a story, Access Vikings newsletter or whatever? Anybody ever get loud with the take that they should have paid Sam Darnold and made McCarthy wait?
Yeah, I've heard it.
I haven't really seen any of it.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't come up a lot. I've heard it here and there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get that occasionally, but I think everybody kind of knew the plan. I mean, when they're going to draft a guy, and that got reinforced this offseason, when they don't pay Darnold, when they don't pay Jones, when they say thanks but no thanks to Aaron Rodgers, I mean, they have been committed to this idea of McCarthy. And then, you can say, well, okay, why is that now leading to all of these questions of when's he going to go back in? Why don't you just play him and put him on the field? But I think the overall, a week or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever it happens to be with Carson Wentz is different than saying, what's the long term? I think the long term is still very much J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. And paying Darnold would have changed that trajectory. It's different to have Wentz doing it for a couple of weeks as it is Darnold gets 3 years, $100 million. I mean, that changes what you're doing over the course of a couple of years. And I think when they looked at it and said, this is the guy for the next, the life of this rookie contract, at least that was going to win out over anything else they might have wanted to do.
Do you sense in any way the head coach and or those around him are are having a mental tug of war right now in that, yeah, we can go on this kid, and yeah, we can protect his left shoulder here. Mm-hmm. The bad left shoulder where he went 9 for 9 and won the game.
Yeah.
With that bad shoulder.
Right.
So therefore, the tug of war would be, it's simply inherently from an experience factor. We know what we're going to get here more than we know what we're going to get here, and we're 3-2 with a bunch of heavies in front of us.
Yeah,
is there a little potential tug of war taking place?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's always that question of you have a guy that's won games. He was really effective at the end of the game. You had to have, even with the shoulder, even with missing 4/5 of the offensive line that you want. I mean, there are those things that come up in the short term. I think a lot of it is. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about McCarthy and this level of development, this level of, okay, we got to work on some mechanics things here. We got to get him back from the ankle in combination with the mechanics. I think, yeah, it makes some sense to say Wentz is the guy for the short term, and, you kind of get McCarthy back when you feel like the time is right to do it. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, there are always those things of you're trying to win games, you're playing the Super Bowl champs this week, then you have a short week to go out to L.A., in a tough situation there, and then it's the Lions, and then the Ravens have been a mess lately, but by that point, they probably have Lamar Jackson back, so the schedule still looks pretty formidable in terms of the teams you're going to face. Yeah, you have to figure out all of those things, and I think that's always the trick of the trying to win a week-to-week league and trying to have an overall development over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years that makes sense.
And you know this as well as anybody. And you have to be gifted for this maturation to take place quickly. And what I'm talking about is Drake May.
Yeah.
Is Drake May last year, when they dusted him off and went with him, mm-hmm. markedly different than the Drake May who made some big plays at New Orleans and bigger plays at Buffalo on Sunday Night Football. Yeah. Even the Drake May that we saw during the joint practices, where, there were times I watched him saying, holy cow, he can't get his feet right. He loops everything. Mm-hmm. Well, that ain't the guy that we're seeing in the regular season. It's clear that his confidence in himself that he can do it is meshing with the skill set that led them to taking him that high. That should be expected with McCarthy. I don't know when it's going to take place, but when it does, that's what it should look like.
Yeah, it is. And it's worth noting because we're going to talk about Drake May. We're going to talk about Bo Nix. Just looking at this, I mean, both those guys have had, I think Nix has had 23 starts. May has had 18. That's different than 2. Mm-hmm. So it does you go through these growing pains. And the tricky part is, this was always going to be part of it. When they win 14 games last year, you are going to have this balancing act of tug of war, whatever you want to call it, of, we want to win now because we have a veteran roster and we think we can win with this quarterback, and it is going to take a little bit of time to develop him. So I think the hope is you get him to a point where he's at least playing complementary football. He's not deterring them or limiting them from winning. They're not playing in spite of him. Mm-hmm. And I think you could see him get to that point in the relatively near future. I think a lot of it is he hasn't played with Jordan Addison. He hasn't played with Christian Darrisaw. I mean, I think all of those things will help when he does get back out there, but there are a lot of things to learn. There's no doubt about it. And the confidence, I think, comes when you've had some success. You've had those reps. You say, there's some things in the bank that I can lean on here. We are still waiting to see him do that. There's no doubt.
What about the Minnesota Vikings defense through 5 games into the Eagles game? We'll hit on that with the Scribe around the corner, courtesy of Standard Heating and Air and StandardHeating.com. Meanwhile, Double B got this.
The cash thing, the fan and 2 men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com, the keyword deposit. Keyword deposit, KFAN.com, keyword deposit. KFAN welcomes Trans-Siberian Orchestra for 2 amazing shows at Target Center, December 28th, 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m. Tickets on sale now. Get full show details, including a link to buy tickets, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell joins us 30 minutes from now here at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center for X's and O's with KO. And we have fan inclusion.
We do indeed. we do a talk back for the head coach every time we're here at TCO Studios in Eagan. So free iHeartRadio app, you hit that microphone, you can give up to your best 30 seconds, give your name and where you're from, and ask the coach a question. I'll weed through them, and we'll find one for KO as he kicks off the 11 a.m. hour here.
Talk back for the head coach coming up 30, 45 minutes from now. And Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Thanks to Standard Heating and Air, joins 9 to noon weekly on Tuesdays here at the team's facility. What do you think of the Vikings defense through 5?
Well, I think you've seen a lot of moments where they've come up with the plays they've had to have. I mean, as this offense has been trying to figure it out, having a defense that keeps you in games tends to be a life preserver. Right. And I think you've seen that quite a bit. I mean, certainly saw it in that game against the Browns, and I think really against the Steelers to an extent. They got run on in that game, and that's something they're going to have to continue to get better at, especially with this stretch of running backs they're going to see here coming up, starting with Saquon Barkley on Sunday. But yeah, I think overall their ability to get stops has been one of those things that's allowed the Vikings to be 3-2, even though you've had all of these quarterback changes, offensive line changes. Having that defense that can preserve things and keep you in games is a necessary thing, and that's been, that's a lot of the reason they are where they are, and not sitting, 2-3, 1-4, or something like that.
You watch games back, right?
Yes, I do.
Every single one, right?
Yep.
So there have been times this year where I've come into like a radio week thinking about, topics for segments as the week goes on up to a game.
Yeah.
And there have been a couple of times where I've wanted to jump into a segment saying they have to have more from Javon Hargrave. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then I would watch back games and see how many times he's double teamed.
Yeah.
On almost every single play.
Yeah.
So, okay, now, so he's, that's a high level of compensation for a double drawing defensive tackle.
Right.
He does have a couple of sacks, but nevertheless, the question would be is if he's drawing that attention, I don't know what the percentage is, feels like it's 65% of the time that he's getting that double. From whom do you need more? And by not having Andrew Van Ginkel, I mean, not having Gink, it changes so much with this defense,
does.
Right?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, you saw it eight snaps, and he had 2 sacks in that, and they just look different when they have him. I think when you talk about defensive tackles, they want pass rush from those guys, yes. And that's part of the reason Hargrave and Jonathan Allen are here. But when you're getting doubles, one of the benefits of that is if you can just sustain and not let blockers get off, neutralize you and get to the second level, you are creating space for linebackers to run free. I mean, that can be part of the job,
right?
Especially in the 3-down front where you have people trying to take on, possibly 2 gaps and man things where they're able to create space for those linebackers. So I think that's especially where when you have Van Ginkel, you have Blake Cashman, who they could get back here. Those linebackers are the people that probably stand to benefit from that the most when you have a tackle like that that's sucking up that many blockers, sucking up that much space. Even if he's not getting home, that can still set up other people. And yeah, I think that's where you see it, is you don't have the people that would probably be in best position to take advantage of those things. And yeah, I think you've certainly seen it, especially with no Van Ginkel. They look a lot different.
Yeah.
We've talked about pitch counts for Christian Darrisaw. I'm curious what the vibe is with Harrison Smith moving forward.
Yeah.
And, all these injuries, you talk about Van Ginkel and it'd be great to have Cashman back. I'm just thinking about Harrison a little bit where, we've been so used to him playing 98% of the snaps. Flores himself, I try to take reps off him, but I just can't keep Tutu off the field. Different story, it appears, here in 2025. Does this feel to you where it is similar, where we're rebuilding this thing to full strength, or is this potentially a situation where back end of his career that we kind of have to get used to kind of this new look where it will be a lot more of Metellus and Theo Jackson and Harrison Smith? We're kind of picking our spots with the hitman.
Yeah, I would imagine that as we go, you're going to see him get back to a level we're more familiar with. I don't think this is the stretch where it's like, okay, we're just kind of in this honorary role and not playing as much. I don't think that's something that he would necessarily be in favor of. I think he's saying, if I'm going to go, I still trust that my body's good enough that I can go.
Right.
And I think it has been getting ramped up, coming back. I think the plan is to have him play more as we get through the season here. And And maybe it's not a bad thing if you're talking about a guy that's 36 years old, that you take some snaps off of him early, expecting that you're going to need him making big plays in December and January, and they hope, well into January. But I think the plan will be to get him more involved as we go. I think you'll see that start to change. But yeah, it has been a lot different. I mean, I've covered the guy every year of his career. My first year on the beat was his rookie year, and seeing him not on the field is not a common sight, that's for sure.
What version of the Eagles do you think the Vikings will get Sunday noon KFAN?
I think they will get a version that is kind of angry. I mean, after these couple of games, they have to be coming in pretty hot and pretty ready to prove a point. So, the question with them, I think, is the way they run the ball. Can they do that well enough to control the game with Hurts, with Barkley? I mean, just all of the ways that they like to play, I think, gives them a good chance against a team that has had trouble against the run. I mean, I think that's, when Kevin O'Connell does his What It Takes meeting tomorrow, I'm sure that that's going to be one of the principles that comes up pretty early, is trying to keep that run game from commanding everything. You go back to that game in 23 when they played them in Philly on a Thursday night and their Eagles ran for 230 yards or whatever. They were productive, but it was also the way that they just controlled the game, that they possessed the ball, I think, close to 40 minutes in that game, if I remember right, and your offense just can't work in the same facet as it would if you're holding the ball for, 29, 30 minutes and, you go up from there. They've had trouble with it. The Vikings have had trouble with that, getting enough plays early in the season. The first couple of games when they're talking about we only have 45 plays or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The Eagles are a team that, if you're not careful defensively, can put you in that type of a situation. I think if they come out angry and looking to assert themselves with the run game, that's what I'd expect to see, and that's what the Vikings are going to have to be ready for.
If Cashman returns this weekend, who do you think steps back? I mean, is it absolutely Wilson who steps back? And it's just beating around the bush a little bit.
Yeah.
I just don't think Ivan Pace Jr. has been anything super special this year. Now, you've seen this too. The longer the backups play, the more they regress.
Right.
That's why they're backups.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, do you really want to put 500-600 plays on Eric Wilson this year?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of mental gyrations.
Right. There is that balancing act there. I agree that Ivan Pace has not been probably what the Vikings would want. I mean, we've seen moments where he's aggressive. You see a lot of this with him, but probably jumping gaps, getting out of spots. That we've seen some of those things happen in these first few games. Eric Wilson has come in pretty capably, and he gives them a steady presence. But there is always that question, is if you play him more, does that regression to the mean happen where he is getting exposed a little bit, where it is 600 snaps? So I think you may see situations where, especially in passing situations, you see Wilson a little more often. Pace has been effective as a blitzer, especially when Cashman is there too. I think that's also worth considering how those two play off of each other.
Good point.
But Wilson in coverage, I think, gives them more than Pace does. I wonder if it'll be, kind of a mix and match there. If it's going to be more drop 8 situations where, third downs like they'd like to do, they blitz first and second sometimes, and the third, it's rush 3, drop 8. Maybe you see Wilson in those settings a little more often.
Good seeing you again, my brother.
Good to see you as well.
Anything we need to know about Access Vikings, the podcast or the newsletter or anything?
It's all coming later this week. We'll have the podcast. We'll typically record tomorrow. New episode tomorrow, mailbag episode Friday, newsletter also out Friday. And then Sunday story is me this week, just looking at the cornerback that the Vikings picked up from the Eagles, who has been somewhat successful earlier this season, Isaiah Rodgers.
And Sundays, we hear you Vikings Football Sunday about 11:20.
Yep.
40 minutes before the game.
Yep. Generally, right in there. I'll be in the radio booth, and we'll fire it up and do Barrero Friday and pregame Sunday. Standard Heating and Air, thank you very much. Ben Goessling, thank you very much. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Vikings, about 20 minutes from now.
If you want to chime in what's happening in your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting the message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard text message and data rates apply.
Welcome back, 9 to noon, News du Nord. And News du Nord is brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. You're feeling the felt all year long. Poker, blackjack, and table games. You're having sips at chips, and you're tipping Derek Allen. Live racing season's on pause, but cool events all year round, including for you football fans. Check this out. Thursdays at Canterbury Park, you can participate in the NFL Pro Pick'em Challenge. You just pick the winners of the games that weekend. And weekly winners, a little walking around money, something for the effort. But at the end of the season, somebody's going to win free fuel for a year thanks to Quick Trip. So Canterbury, best spot in Shakopee. Go check it out, CanterburyPark.com. Kind of a two-topic. First of all, Jesper Wallstedt, I believe I pronounced that correctly, terrific in a shootout last night, finding the Minnesota Wild now 2-1 to start the 2025-26 campaign. It was a power play bonanza in the first period, staking a 3-0 lead for the Wild. Kings found their way back in the third period. My sources, i.e. Brett Blakemore, we were arguing, not really arguing, but he fed Wallstedt was fantastic. I think maybe one of them was a problem, but in the end, they tie it up. They go to OT. There's no goals. Shootout takes place, only one goal needed, and Wallstedt with a big stop sends the Wild into the winner's circle. Now, with that said, no rest for the winners in this particular case. They're heading down, I believe, to Dallas this evening to face the Stars. So a nice little division collision on a Tuesday night for your 2-1 Minnesota Wild.
Double B, give us your best 30 seconds on what you think of the first three Wild games, and good morning.
And good morning. Apologies for the voice. I'm very sick. I really enjoyed them. Obviously, you don't want to take the foot off the gas. Like they did last night in the second period. You got up 3 goals. They almost got up 4 goals and then kind of let them back into the game. I think the first goal was Wallstedt. Could have done much better, but the other 2 I thought he had no chance on. But the resiliency, we love to talk about it. The fight back. So we'll see what happens on the back end of a back-to-back, but overall, good things for the Wild.
Sweet.
Dig that. You're going to get to hear that tonight on your home for Wild Hockey, the Fan. And to the NFL... Well, you know what? Actually, I want to do this. Just a few minutes to bounce around. From a baseball standpoint, I mentioned to you, and I think we were in lockstep. We got to get Softy from Seattle on the hotline at some point this week, because these Mariners might be on a run. They're 2-0. They're up 2-rip on the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALCS. And it was Cal Raleigh in a 3-1 effort in Game 1. Last night, the offense was coming from all over the freaking place as Seattle beat Toronto in Toronto 10-3. And they get a chill day today because of travel. But other than that, early and often, you get the 3-run home run in the first to get that 3-0 lead. Jays would tie it up. But once it went to the bullpen, the Mariners cruised their way with 7 unanswered to find themselves in the winner's circle. And then on the NL side of things, it was Dodgers and Brew Crew last night. Brewers, I think it was Freddie Freeman with a solo home run in the 6th. They get the insurance run top of 9, and the Brewers did score 1 and left the bases loaded as it was a swinging strike 3. And the Dodgers find one in Milwaukee 2-1. They're up 1-0 in the series. Game 2 is tonight. But the championship series are sweet, man. And, I've joked about it, like, Rob Manfred probably isn't drawing it up from a revenue standpoint. Like, man, it'd be sweet if the Brewers and the Mariners were in the World Series. But with that said, both teams very game. Dodgers, Brewers looks like it could be a long series. And it's fun to see the Mariners on this little run here.
Yeah, I'd like to see the bottom lines for each team, because just at first blush, I mean, it seems from afar like the LA Dodgers in a capless game.
Yeah.
Well, they either choose to or can outspend all 3 of the other teams combined. So it's, the LA Dodgers have yet to lose a game in the playoffs, and they kind of stumbled into the postseason a little bit too. This completely looks like a team that is so cocksure and so confident in itself. It's the push button mentality. You guys can all trip on Mookie. You guys can all trip on Muncy. Go ahead and trip on the catcher. Will Smith, pitching, Blake Snell, the whole thing. When we push that button, you're all dead. That's it. That's the end of the story, because we have the best players. We have the most money. We're willing to spend the most money, and we're not going to lose.
Yeah.
Which is a shame for what used to be known as America's pastime. If they just continue to win and win and win, and they just sweep their way through the World Series. I mean, it'd be good for Dodger fans, but just kind of crappy for the league, though.
Well, I mean, just even the matchup, for instance, the Milwaukee Brewers. This is from, I just scrambled on Google machine. They're 23rd.
That's why I was talking so long. I knew what you were doing.
USA Today has the Brewers 23rd with a $115 million payroll.
Okay.
The LA Dodgers are number 2 at 321.
Behind the Mets?
So behind the Mets at 323.
Jeez.
So the Dodgers have almost tripled the payroll, and they're potentially in for a grind. They haven't lost a game, to your point.
Wow.
But they've actually tripled up almost the
team they're playing.
Yeah, and the Seattle Mariners at $146, where the Blue Jays at $239. So you're seeing
Blue Jays are $239.
They're paying somebody over there. So
they got a nice TV deal up there, Toronto way, don't they?
Well, Jorge Polanco with a 3-run shot off of Louis Varland, twin-on-twin violence taking place in the ALCS. Last thing for you, and then we're going to get to the head coach and pause. Josh Allen and the Bills appear broken. Big part of their success a year ago, lack of turnovers. I think it was like 8 or 9 as a team the whole season. The last 2 games for them resulting in losses with the Patriots and then last night the Falcons in Atlanta. Just giving the ball to the other team, it's a problem for them. Bears found their way past a turnover-laden Commanders team last night too.
And beloved BJ, Ben Johnson, got those Bears playing pretty good right now. They're in the NFC North. The Vikings get them at home month and change from now, somewhere during that. And to chat about the Viking schedule and current things transpiring with our favorite football team, head coach Kevin O'Connell joins us for X's and O's around the corner. It's KFAN.